Fox 61 News at 10 starts now.
First at 10, heavy snow, heavy rain, or a little of both depending on where you live. We'll break it down for you coming up.
There's reason to hope. There's reason to continue on.
Right now at 10, remembering the 26 lives lost at Sandy Hook Elementary School, how Newtown is reflecting on the tragedy 10 years ago today.
As Connecticut remembers the victims of Sandy Hook, advocates are calling for lawmakers to do more to stop gun violence. We'll hear our state's senators and their message to Congress tonight.
And we are hearing from former President Barack Obama tonight, who says the Sandy Hook shooting was the single darkest day of his presidency. But we do want to begin at 10 with a weather watch alert. We are expecting a winter storm that could drop up to a foot of snow in some parts of Connecticut. Here's the future radar from our Weather Watch Center. This is a look at what could happen across our state tomorrow night and Friday. Good evening, I'm Jen Bernstein.
And I'm Ben Goldman. Thanks for joining us here at 10. After the winter's first significant snow on Sunday night of last weekend, some cities and towns are bracing for much more to fall over the next few days here. I want to check in with Chief Meteorologist Rachel Frank to find out where we could see the most snow and when will it be falling? Those are the questions. Hi, Rach.
Hi, guys. Yeah, this is all going to get underway tomorrow night and continue all the way into Friday night. And I want to stress the bulk of the state, most of the state, we'll think of this as a rain and wind storm, but the Northwest Hills is looking at a pretty impressive snowstorm on the way. So here's the breakdown. This will get started after the sun goes down tomorrow night as snow in the Northwest Hills and likely staying as snow for the duration of the event. That could lead to not only heavy wet snow accumulation, but snow that's actually sticking to everything, trees and power lines weighing them down, and there could be scattered outages in northwestern Connecticut. That includes Litchfield County and far northwestern Hartford County. But for a lot of us, this is mostly just rain that could start or finish as a few snowflakes in spots. And along the shoreline, we're talking about gusts up to 40 miles per hour. So the Friday morning commute is either looking wet or white, depending on where you live. Where we stay all snow, that's where we could get over a half a foot of snow. And it looks like areas around Waterbury that'll change over first. We'll end up seeing about 1 to 3 inches of accumulation before we end up going over to rain. It's a little bit more than that, 3 to 6 inches for southern Litchfield County. And on the backside of the storm, as it's pulling away, we could see a little additional accumulation even for areas like northeastern Connecticut. But for valley locations, southern Connecticut, the immediate shoreline, we're not expecting much, either no accumulation or a scattered coating. I know this is a lot of information thrown at you, and I want to say before we touch base again that it is dry during the day tomorrow. Again, we won't see this get underway until tomorrow night. We'll show you the future radar, really step you through it, full forecast coming up.
Rachel, thank you. And be sure to download the free Fox 61 News app. It's a great resource to track this storm and other winter weather across Connecticut. You can also get breaking news updates and traffic conditions sent right to your phone.
Well, tonight we are remembering the victims of the tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary School exactly 10 years to the day. 26 children and educators were killed on that heartbreaking day that shook Newtown, our state, and our country to the core. The shooting also changed the way our country views gun control, school safety, and mental health.
On December 14th, 2012, a 20-year-old man broke into Sandy Hook Elementary School with guns. He opened fire, killing 20 first graders and 6 teachers and staff members. Newtown has been in mourning ever since that horrific Friday morning. Families were ruined as lives were taken less than 2 weeks before Christmas that year. A Catholic church that became very important to Newtown after Sandy Hook held a memorial mass tonight as the town marks 10 years since that school shooting.
St. Rose of Lima filled with people wanting to pay their respects to those killed as well as their families. Fox 61's Tony Black was there earlier this evening and begins our team coverage tonight.
Victoria Soto.
The names of the 20 students and 6 educators killed at Sandy Hook Elementary School 10 years ago were read aloud during a remembrance mass at St. Rose of Lima Church in Newtown Wednesday.
Benjamin Wheeler.
The 26 victims remembered on angel ornaments hung on a Christmas tree. Newtown's St. Rose of Lima held many of the funerals for the children and adults and countless vigils. 10 years later, it remains a place to honor and remember their lives.
But even though 10 years have passed, the wounds that those who loved them, missed them, whose hearts were literally torn open in the tragedy of this day. We pray for their family and for their friends and for their relatives and neighbors.
Reverend Frank Caggiano says the scars on those impacted will last a lifetime. What happened on December 14th, 2012, the Diocese of Bridgeport bishop says impacted everyone. The Reverend offered prayers for the survivors, now in their late teens.
We think tonight of those who were the first responders on that day of such great sorrow and suffering.
Sandy Hook's Crystal Mock was inside this church with her 2 young boys that Friday morning when sirens interrupted the service.
Halfway through the Mass, we heard the sirens, and then more sirens, and that's very unusual for a town like Newtown. That day, the Mass was stopped. The children had to lock down in church. It was scary because we didn't know. We didn't know what was going on.
10 years later, she says it's hard to believe. Attendance for her Wednesday was to show her support for the victims and their families and the Newtown community.
To see how strong they have been and persevered and come out with organizations that help so many other people, I can't imagine. I just can't imagine doing that as a mother that lost a child.
Through that tragedy, Mock says it showed the resilience of this Connecticut town. A decade since the Sandy Hook shooting, Monsignor Robert Weiss says the church is a reminder of what happened and the growth that's come since.
And I thank for each one of you tonight who brought that light to this church. And just remind us that even in the worst of times, there is reason to hope, there is reason to continue on.
One message we've heard a lot this week is there's more to be done. Following the shooting, Connecticut enacted stricter gun laws. Many are calling for the country to follow our state's lead to prevent other families and communities from having to suffer like Connecticut did. In the studio, Tony Black, Fox 61 News.
Tony, thank you. That's exactly what Connecticut senators urged to do today. Senators Chris Murphy and Richard Blumenthal called on Congress to pass stronger gun laws as the country remembers the decade since Sandy Hook. Senator Chris Murphy has been especially vocal about the need for gun reforms after the shooting. While Congress did pass the most significant gun legislation in 3 decades earlier this year, both senators say that there's plenty of lawmakers that still need to address.
What we have done isn't enough. It doesn't absolve us of the responsibility to do more, but it is saving lives. And this day for me comes with gratitude and joy for all of the people all across this country, especially those people in Newtown who've decided to be part of this movement.
Our teachers are doing their jobs. Our police are doing their jobs. Parents are doing their jobs. Congress is not doing its job.
In New Haven tonight, advocates are also pushing for an end to mass shootings and other types of gun violence that we hear about every day. The group Connecticut Against Gun Violence hosted a remembrance event to mark this somber date. Fox 61's Gabby Molina joins us live in New Haven after speaking with them tonight. So, Gabby, what was their message this evening?
Jen, they remembered the 26 lives lost at Sandy Hook with a vigil here in New Haven tonight, honoring them and other victims of gun violence in Connecticut over the last decade.
Olivia Engel, Josephine Gay.
10 years have passed since one of the most difficult days in Connecticut's history.
Madeline Shue, Catherine Hubbard.
20 children and 6 educators killed by a gunman at Sandy Hook Elementary School.
I'm a father of a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old daughter. And I can't imagine losing my baby like that.
The emotions of that day, still raw even a decade later. The victims were remembered at a vigil inside St. James Episcopal Church in New Haven with a call to action.
We have to do more. We must do more. I truly believe that we are not going to give up and that someday we can end gun violence.
The vigil, held in a city that's often impacted by gun violence, pointing for the need for change still, 10 years after the tragedy in Sandy Hook.
I'm angry about what happened in Sandy Hook. I'm angry about the 100 to 150 people every year in the state that die. I'm angry that people don't care enough to do something about it.
But the voices calling for change have been loud, from Connecticut and beyond.
The survivors of Sandy Hook the members of Newtown. They inspired me and told me to put my grief into action and continue to advocate for change, to honor the lives that were lost at my school, at Sandy Hook, and also the millions of shootings that happened since then.
And on a somber day of remembrance, a promise to keep going.
Today we say no more. Today I say we stand with those that stood up at Sandy Hook. We stand with those that are fighting across America. And we say enough is enough.
In addition to the names of the victims from Sandy Hook that were read today at the vigil, the names of other victims of gun violence were also read and recognized. Live in New Haven, Gabby Molina, Fox 61 News.
Gabby, thank you. The Sandy Hook shooting also changed how school districts nationwide try to protect their students. Some districts have even spent thousands of dollars of new security technology. In East Hartford, the town's school superintendent says those upgrades especially helped after police responded in less than 2 minutes after some swatting incidents just 2 months ago.
I think other things that have happened here certainly are really looking at our buildings and looking at how we train, how we condition our buildings, how we harden to a degree our buildings.
Other schools across Connecticut, East Hartford's district has benefited from many state grants to invest in secure entrances, HD security cameras, and improved communication with law enforcement.
Well, on this somber date, we reflected and remember the 26 lives taken too soon at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Fox 61 presented Sandy Hook Strong 10 years later, a special tribute to the 26 boys, girls, and adults and their memories. You can watch that special. It aired at 7 p.m. on Fox 61, but you can watch that streaming live on Fox 61 Plus or Amazon Fire TV and Roku and on our website.